Funny stuff, Ronnie.
This is a CBS News special report, part of our continuing coverage of America at War. From CBS News headquarters in New York, here is Dan Rather.
Good evening. We're on the air because sirens have started going off in Baghdad. What this means, no one can be clear about at the moment. The skies look clear. It's just before sunrise in Baghdad. Sunrise happens in Baghdad, where it's already Thursday morning at 6:07 a.m. Baghdad time. That would be 10:07 p.m. New York time. Sirens went off a short while ago. And we go now to Sky News reporter, CBS affiliate, David Chater. David, do you hear us? Describe what you see and hear and what's happening.
But a lot of low rumbles coming at the moment. So it could be a false alarm, we don't know. But at the moment, very strange, sort of like silver, golden, falling flashes coming down from the sky, which is cloud-covered. You can now hear some gunfire coming up from the city. This seems to be anti-aircraft fire. No explosions yet, just a distant sound of thudding. But obviously the city is now on alert. We heard the air raid sirens a few minutes ago, and I'll bring you updated reports. I'm looking across the city skyline at the moment. I can still see no sign of an explosion. I'm looking southwards. You can probably see those pictures that we are putting out from a locked-off position on the roof of the Ministry of Information. That is looking southwards. And I don't know if you can see anything there, but above us, there are very strange flashes, as I keep saying, coming from the clouds. It looks like sort of golden confetti coming down from the clouds. I have no idea what that is, but it could be fire coming from the city. But at the moment, very distant sounds of gunfire. The sirens have gone off, but as yet, no signs of any explosions inside the city and across the skyline that I'm looking at the moment in Baghdad. Again, flashes of light, a lot of flashes of light, just across the Tigris, as I see at the moment, all across the Tigris. I don't know if you're picking any of this up, but this
David, we can, yeah, David, I mean, we are looking certainly at the locked-off position that your camera crew offered to us before you took to your beds for the night. We can see some tracer fire. We're not sure if it's tracer fire, but certainly some lights in the sky here from our position in the studio in London. We know that the White House has told Americans to prepare for war that will cost lives and last for an unknown time. But we also heard from Ari Fleischer that the president has said that he feels...
What you're listening to is a conversation live Baghdad through London. This is a live report. Air raid sirens have sounded over Baghdad. Some, what is believed to be anti-aircraft fire, has gone off. The indication is that an air raid is either in progress or about to be in progress over Baghdad. There's expected to be a White House briefing at any moment with Ari Fleischer, the official White House spokesman and press secretary, who perhaps can shed some light on this. Here's what we know. Sirens went off in Baghdad just a few minutes ago. Flashes of light over the city. David Chater, the CBS affiliated Sky News reporter, is there, and let's pick up now what he's saying while we wait for Ari Fleischer's briefing.
Not much of a necessary warning, frankly. Looking across here, I don't see anybody at all, but still sent food already. There are army units on the street, but nobody is moving. The dogs are barking all across the city. They know that something is about to happen, but David, just at the moment it's...
David Martin, live at the Pentagon. We cut away from the live coverage in Baghdad to repeat. Air raid sirens went off. There have been some explosions in the sky, believed to be anti-aircraft fire. No confirmed sighting yet of any explosions coming down from the sky. We go to CBS News national security correspondent David Martin at the Pentagon. David, what do you know? What should we be looking and listening for now?
Well, Dan, I am certain that this is not the start of the war, the start of the all-out air assault on Iraq. I believe this is a strike on some sort of target of opportunity which the military thought it had in Baghdad. What we know right now, or I should say what we can report, we know a little more than we can report right now. What we know is that late this afternoon, the President held an unscheduled, unannounced meeting in the Oval Office with the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the Director of the CIA, and that meeting lasted for about 3 hours. And since then, there has been a lot of activity that we've been trying to monitor, and we think it's involved, it is all related to what we are now seeing on the screen, but until we see more in Baghdad, I'm a little reluctant to report any more than that right now.
Well, David, Associated Press, Dateline Baghdad, it says that in addition to the air raid sirens, which we've reported, and flashes of light, the Associated Press says there have been the sounds of planes over the skies in Baghdad. Now, our man in Baghdad, David Chater, said that he had not heard any aircraft, but somebody with the Associated Press believes that they have done.
That would surprise me, Dan, because I don't think you would put planes over Baghdad until you had attacked the air defenses first with cruise missiles. I don't know what the difference in sound between a cruise missile and a plane is, and perhaps one can be mistaken for the other. But I would be surprised if without first attacking the air defenses, the U.S. Would send planes over downtown Baghdad, which is where all the air defenses that Baghdad really still possesses are concentrated.
I want to point out to our viewers, this is CBS News live coverage of activity in Baghdad. There's much we do not know. David Martin reports that whatever is going on over Baghdad in the way of aerial activity, and keep in mind that what we have seen and heard from the eyewitness testimony of our man in Baghdad for the moment, David Chater with Sky News, is that there's been some anti-aircraft are holding. That does not sound like any aircraft fight. This sounds like we're going to bring in David Martin. David?
Dan, what this is a strike on a target of opportunity which popped up in Baghdad sometime today. The CIA thought it had located members of the Iraqi leadership, and at this meeting in the Oval Office, which I was describing earlier, the President gave the order to launch an airstrike against these targets in downtown Baghdad. And that's what we're seeing now. These are strikes being carried out by cruise missiles, which would have been launched from ships most likely either in the Persian Gulf or the Red Sea at a target of opportunity. They thought they had located some members of the Iraqi leadership. Exactly which members, I do not know. I do not know if Saddam Hussein is one of the people they thought they had located. Now it's quiet there. That may be all there was, and it's going to be obviously some time before we know first whether the intelligence was correct, and second whether the strike was successful.
David, we're going to pause with these live pictures of Baghdad so people can get not only the picture but also hear the sounds. We've also already heard the sounds of what are believed to be Tomahawk missile strikes. We'll try to put in part of the picture. Tomahawk missiles are a cruise type missile usually launched, well in this case David Martin says believed to be launched from submarines. General Buck Kernan has joined us here. General, the Tomahawk missile would be sea launched, correct?
It's correct. It can be sea or air launched. In all probability, as David said, these are from surface platforms. Could be subsurface like submarines, but they are definitely coming from the sea.
We're going to pick up David Chater, our correspondent with Sky News, who's helping to report for us in Baghdad. Let's pick him up.
I don't know if that's a hit anywhere or the fact they've set off one of their oil defenses. but a calm again across the city. For a while there, a large flurry of activity, but I still haven't seen any large hit come in on the city itself.
David, we know for people who are just joining us here at Sky Centre, we heard air raid sirens above the city 90 minutes after President Bush's deadline, and then explosions you're telling us about some 10 minutes or so later, large pools of smoke, oil perhaps in the trenches that have been dug around the city having been set alight. Certainly we saw a tracer aircraft fire, we saw jets roaring overhead as well. You've been telling us about people who are taking for cover as quickly as possible. What else can you see, David?
Well, it's now calmed down. As I say, I've seen one large pool of smoke very much to the south of the picture. It's directly ahead of you. One or two cars, but the soldiers have taken cover. A few flashes again there, but the city now seems to have calmed down once again. Was it a nervous ACAC crew? What did they see? What did they hear? I've emphasized all along this could be just a nervous attack by the defenses. They are on edge. That siren went off, but I haven't seen anything land. Nothing land on the city skyline I'm watching. I don't know if you've seen any different from where you are. Some more tracer fires tingling in the sky up in the clouds above. A lot more activity. I can see these flashes going off in the sky, but I can't hear the reports.
David, we're expecting...
We're going to break away for just a moment from this coverage of David Chater live from Baghdad, who's not in a position to see a great deal. We'll try to keep the live picture up from Baghdad for you as we go through. But here's what we know. Air raid sirens went off in Baghdad. Was that noise in the city? In the meantime, we're going to switch to the White House briefing room. Here's Ari Fleischer.
The President will address the nation at 10:15.
Well, that was short. The President of the United States will address the nation in about 15 minutes from now. That would be 10 o'clock Eastern time tonight. Live picture in Baghdad. We heard some thunderous explosions earlier that would indicate the possibility that Tomahawk missiles, a cruise missile, or perhaps an additional one, have hit the city, but we do not know that for a fact. David Martin has reported. President Bush met with some of his principal military advisors earlier in the evening. It's believed, and in that meeting, and reliably reported, we believe to us, that the President was told there was a, quote, a target of opportunity to be hit in Baghdad. David described it as possibly a place where some high-ranking members were. That's speculative. Nobody knows, but a target of opportunity. Now, given the fact, General Buck Kernan, retired U.S. Army, that we believe Tomahawk missiles have been used, that would indicate that it is a fixed target, not a moving target.
That's correct, Dan. In all probability, this was one of many locations that had probably been identified, command and control facilities, bunker, palaces, where they might have determined that the Iraqi chain of command may be. Those would have been pre-programmed in to the missiles and then on order launched.
Now, this is what the Tomahawk missile looks like when it's launched from submarines. These submarines would be in the Red Sea, General, that fired these missiles, we believe?
Could be in the Red Sea, could be in the Gulf, could have been from air platforms also, but in all probability, as David said, they probably are from the sea, either the Red Sea or the Persian Gulf.
Now, let me correct something. The President of the United States is now scheduled to speak at about 10:15 Eastern Time. This is an adjustment of what we said earlier, that the President is to speak at 10:15 Eastern Time. That would be not quite a half hour from now, to about 26, 27 minutes from now. The President will speak and may shed more light on what has happened. What we do know is that sirens sounded over Baghdad, anti-aircraft fires started. There are some reports of hearing aircraft, but keep in mind that sometimes people confuse the sound of aircraft with the sound of missiles. You say, well, how could they do that? Well, trust me, it's rather easy to do. We do not know what, if anything, has been hit. We do not know with what it has been hit, if it has indeed been hit. The belief is a fixed target, what's called a target of opportunity by David Martin, believed to have been perhaps a meeting of some kind. President Bush was told early this evening that there was a target of opportunity. He gave the go-ahead to strike it, and we believe that that's what's been in progress these last few minutes. Now, right now you can see it's breaking dawn in Baghdad, that in the night just before dawn, in fact in that gray area between night and sunrise, in the morning twilight, there was apparently a calling card left in Baghdad. Something went boom in the night just before sunrise. Now, David Martin reports that so far as can be determined, this is not, and I repeat, not the beginning of the main aerial campaign to be followed, the U.S. military hopes, by a land invasion. I want to emphasize that the best of our information indicates that is not the case. Let's go back to David Martin at the Pentagon as we continue to look at a live picture from Baghdad. David, let's go over, as we await the President's appearance at 10:15 Eastern Time, 9:15 in the Central Time Zone, that exactly what we know about what has happened and why it has happened. David?
Well, let's back up to late afternoon when I believe this whole sequence of events began. At around 4:30 this afternoon, the President convened a meeting in the Oval Office of his most senior national security advisors, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, the Director of the CIA, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. At that meeting, apparently, they discussed some intelligence that presumably the CIA had come up with, which made them think they had a good fix on the location of some members of the Iraqi leadership. And in that course of that meeting, apparently, the President gave the order to launch a strike at whatever this building or bunker where these people were believed to be meeting was. That strike was almost certainly carried out by cruise missiles fired from either ships or submarines in the Red Sea or the Persian Gulf. The cruise missile, this current model of the cruise missile, is a satellite-guided weapon. It works off taking updates from global positioning satellites, and I'm sure this target was on the target list to begin with anyway, since they have all of the underground bunkers that they've identified, all of the intelligence and defense buildings identified and already programmed into the computers of the guidance systems of these cruise missiles. And within a very brief period of time, they launched this strike. It was hard to count the number of explosions that you could hear on the television screen. I would think it was somewhere between 5 and 10, but that's just a guess. And then that's it. No more. This was a one-time shot trying to get a target that had popped up and that they hoped to get. Now it's going to be some time, obviously, before we know, one, whether that intelligence was correct, and two, whether the missiles hit the target and got who they were after. But obviously, the coincidence of this happening, an hour and a half after the expiration of the deadline that President Bush had set for Saddam Hussein to go into exile, will not be missed on anyone. This is, as you said, a pretty good calling card that the President means it, that Saddam and his regime must go. But I hasten to add that were this the real thing, were this the start of the war, these explosions would be continuing now because they are going to launch literally hundreds of cruise missiles in the first 24 hours of the air war. When it begins, we think, in perhaps another 24 to 48 hours. And of course, we don't know what this will do to the schedule of the war. This may prompt Saddam to take some sort of preemptive action. This may convince Saddam that he cannot survive an American onslaught. We don't know what effect it's going to have, but it certainly eliminates any doubt, if there ever was any left, that George Bush is serious about getting rid of Saddam Hussein and his circle of power.
David, here's what we're going to do right now. We're going to back up some videotape. And as you point out, that the indication is this was a, quote, target of opportunity. President Bush authorized it to be hit, that this is not, insofar as anybody can determine, and about this we are reasonably sure. We always like to tell you, what we know, what we don't know, what we think we know. This is under the heading of what we think we know, is this is not the start of the main aerial bombardment campaign that will be a prelude to the main force invasion. That will come hours, perhaps days behind this tonight. As David Martin describes it, this is designed for a specific target, or perhaps targets in Baghdad. Right now we want to play the tape. Here's what happened. We were on the air live with it about 20 some odd minutes ago. Listen and watch. This was recorded in Baghdad. We were on the air live with it, and you can hear and see what we heard and saw at that time. Some seconds left in this videotape replay now. And that was pretty much it. The Good Morning Baghdad sent by President Bush. That lasted on the order of what, maybe a minute and a half, possibly as much as 2 minutes. Now, Andy Clark, one of our CBS News reporters and producers, has called in from Italy and saying that the U.S. Armed Forces radio said that this is, quote, a target of opportunity, and that the target of opportunity was, as David Martin reported a short while ago, what was believed to be a meeting of the Iraqi leadership. It may be some time, maybe a long time, who knows, before anyone can say, first of all, whether what are believed to be these Tomahawk missiles actually hit their targets, a fixed target where, for some reason, the United States thought there was a meeting of the Iraqi leadership, and if they hit the targets, what damage was done. I want to point out that White House spokesman Ari Fleischer, when he announced that President Bush would be speaking to the American people in now about 19 minutes from now at 10:15 Eastern Time, Ari Fleischer said that the opening phases of the disarmament of Iraq are underway. I underscore the phrase opening phases because there's a widespread belief, David Martin, our Pentagon correspondent, underscores this, that this is not the opening of main aerial bombardment campaign, which will be a prelude to a major ground force invasion. That still is apparently sometime off, perhaps a day or two away. We simply do not know. I want to go to Bill Plant, one of our CBS News White House correspondents. Bill, what do you know? What do you hear?
Dan, we've known all evening that something was up because the White House folks never let this thing drop. They never called it an evening. It was quite obvious that the president was probably going to speak tonight, though we were never told that as such. And even though, Dan, it appears that the war has probably not officially begun or begun in earnest, as David pointed out, it's no surprise that Mr. Bush is coming to speak this evening because he has been pressed repeatedly to tell the American people how much this war will cost in both lives and dollars. And his spokesman has said over and over again that the president will not once, but more than once, make the case to the American people for what he is about to do, the reasons he is doing it, and what it can be expected to cost. The White House today foreshadowed that just a little bit by reminding us for the first time that this will cost American lives. But we do expect to hear from the president, if not the specifics of what targets were struck, a justification for what he is doing, an explanation that this is now underway, that it will continue for some time, and that it will entail costs and sacrifices. Dan?
Bill Plant, live from the White House. Now, according to the Associated Press, which of course has eyewitnesses on the scene, as do we, and you heard our man in Baghdad through our Sky affiliation, David Chater, earlier described what was going on, but the movements of any reporters and the field of view of any reporters in Baghdad is extremely limited by the circumstances of where they are kept, if you will, and where they're allowed to go. But according to the Associated Press, no airplanes were visible in the skies over Baghdad as the air raid sirens blasted. Some yellow and white tracers from anti-aircraft fire were seen scattered about in the sky. And then a number of strong explosions went off in the city. That's what we replayed for you earlier. We had it on the air live, and we replayed it for you. Now, Associated Press says one explosion raised what they call a ball of fire toward the southern part of the capital. We do not know for sure what weapons were used in this attack, but the most reasonable analysis is that they were tomahawks fired probably from submarines or possibly ship-launched that were put on this target. Now, retired General Perry Smith is joining us here. General, put this in context and perspective for us, what we believe to be a hello, we're around, signature shot, but perhaps no more than that.
That's right, Dan, but I think it's important for us to kind of go through the phases of this war. There are 4 phases. Phase 1 is the decision to go to war, and that was taken 3 or 4 days ago. The second phase is the initial phase. The third phase is the decisive phase. And the fourth phase is the wrap-up or the reconstruction phase. We are now kind of between phase 1 and phase 2. As you correctly reported, this is not a major air attack. This is very different than we saw on the 16th of January, 1991. But it does allow us to send a signal, maybe take an opportunity, let everybody know that we're ready to go. But it is not we're not in phase 2 yet. That's clear to me.
I want to point out to our viewers, and perhaps those who are just joining us, there has been an air attack of some kind in Baghdad, lasted about 2, maybe as long as 2.5 to 3 minutes. President Bush will be speaking to the American public about 13 minutes from now. We will, of course, carry that live from Washington. David Martin, our CBS News national security correspondent at the Pentagon, has reported that what's called a target of opportunity was picked up by U.S. intelligence. The president met with his military leaders in late afternoon, perhaps on into the evening. He gave the okay, the go-ahead for this attack. It came at sunrise Baghdad time. It's not lost on anyone that the attack began roughly an hour and a half, maybe a little less than that, after the passage of the deadline that President Bush had given to Saddam Hussein to either leave the country or face attack. I want to turn quickly to Buck Kernan, retired U.S. Army. General, give us your perspective in putting this in context. It does, for all the world, look like a one-shot, not literally one shot, but a one carefully calibrated attack, not necessarily the